Today's episode, Josh and I are going to bring back News or Snooze because, well, we're recording on a Wednesday, 2 days after our normal recording day. And what a day in the NBA. We're just going to throw some news stories back and forth at each other in News or Snooze, break down really what's going on. There's so many things going on in the league right now. We're in a really great place for the playoffs and the news. And then all NBA reactions from both of us since that has finally come out. And my turn, my crack at trivia. Next. Welcome back to the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Josh, and this is the Two Pointers podcast.
Josh, after a really long extra couple days here for us recording on Wednesday, the 16th, how you feeling? How was vacation?
Vacation's great. I was honestly glad that we were able to have these extra couple days to wait because we were talking about earlier, there weren't really many news stories that really came up when we were going to record on Monday, and things have kind of gone crazy over the past 2 days, and really just this morning as we're recording on Wednesday. And also the single biggest news story in the NBA all year broke today, and that LaMelo Ball won the Rookie of the Year award. It's the only thing that matters.
The city of Charlotte is ever so excited right now.
People can't see me, but there's just a permanent grin on my face.
Hey, well deserved. We've given him the award. It's just like every other award this year. We've given somebody the award 4 months prior. And why was this one the most suspenseful? It was the closest, right? But was it?
Probably was. It was also the one that we were probably the most biased about.
God, it took forever, though. Why this one? MVP was announced 4 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a week ago, actually. It's longer than that. Yep. And now here we are, Rookie of the Year. It's just weird to think that big of a gap. I am glad, however, that this wasn't some awful show in June that we had to watch for a couple years in a row there, where it was this terrible award show where you had Drake doing a bunch of corny lines and you had guys dressed up. And I didn't like the show
I never watched
but
those.
I didn't. It was terrible. It was the worst idea.
ESPN sent me an update every time an award was given out, so I could just read that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they tried to do it like the Heisman Trophy, but yet there's 6 awards.
But the Heisman Trophy has a lot of suspense.
Exactly.
These awards, we knew Nikola Jokic was winning MVP. We knew Rudy Gobert was winning Defensive Player of the Year. We knew that has Julius Randle won Most Improved Player now?
He did, yeah.
Okay, yes. We knew Clarkson was winning Sixth Man. These were all pretty set in stone.
We knew it was a Jazz player, at least. Yeah. We knew it was a Jazz player. We didn't know who it was, but we knew it was a Jazz player. And then
we didn't know Coach of the Year, but that's just you and I were kind of.
That was who officially got that now? It was Quinn Snyder, correct? No.
I thought it was Thibodeau.
It was Thibodeau. That's it. It was Thibodeau. Yeah. That's right. Because I remember mentioning that it could be Thibodeau. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait. It's actually Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. Well deserved. You want to kick us off with News or Snooze? After
where are we starting?
Pick one. I feel like that's where we are. Pick one.
Let's start with the unfortunate news I woke up to this morning. Chris Paul has been placed on the health and safety protocol list. And some reporters that I've seen online are reporting that he's tested positive for COVID-19. They don't know at the moment how long he'll be out.
Is this News or Snooze? I was waiting for the question.
Well, yeah. I mean,
is it? Yeah.
Well, it's news. Right? Yeah, it's news. Yeah. It's
100%.
Kind of a man. Chris Paul can't catch a break.
Really, right?
Yeah. That was just my first reaction to it. Gosh, in a team that really is probably his best chance in his career to get to the finals.
Yeah, my first reaction was I texted one of our friends. There's always something with Chris Paul in there. It's what's the caveat, right? My thing is, though, I'm optimistic for 2 reasons. One, we have credible sources, but it's all real unclear. The second thing is the NBA is, I don't want to say investigating, but the NBA is evaluating their policy on vaccinated players. And he was supposedly vaccinated in February at some kind of warehouse seminar thing that they did for players for vaccinations. at the end of the day, he could be back sooner, and not to transition quickly, but it is news. The Suns can really be competitive without him, but he truly is the anchor of that team. And he's the reason that they just swept the MVP and the Nuggets. Also, by the way, speaking of the MVP, his brother's not a guy I want to get caught in the elevator with, because those dudes.
I saw that video.
I've never seen them before. Like, you've never had any reason to cover his brothers, because
Like, they're almost
players.
bigger than him.
One of them was with the tattoos. He's huge. On total side note. But here's why I think the Chris Paul thing is unfortunate at the same time, and why he truly can't catch a break is same morning. I'm going to roll right into the next one. The series that is on the opposite side of the West, that they would ultimately have this rest here playing up until, that you would want as a Suns fan or as Chris Paul, you would want that series to go to 7. With Kawhi Leonard possibly tearing an ACL, pending a swelling decrease and MRI evaluation that's supposed to be tomorrow. So by Monday, we'll fully know. For next week, for us, it's a short week. We'll know fully what the injury is. He's definitely not playing Game 5, and that series is probably over, and it's probably 6. It should have been 5 or 6 that we originally thought. After Game 2, we thought the Jazz were sweeping them at this rate.
I think my original thought was it went 6 or 7, but
yeah,
man, that really.
So Kawhi Leonard,
the series that to me was maybe the most suspenseful, and just takes the air out of it. And you feel for Kawhi because he's playing some of his best basketball, and you hate to see a guy go down with an injury, just like unfortunately, like bumping his knee into Joe Ingles on a fast break. Cause this. Hopefully, he's not out the rest of the series, but
this really is peak Kawhi too. So I think that's really what's unfortunate about this. You have to hope for the best, but here we are with Kawhi, the same Kawhi Leonard that just won a championship in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors, who, at the young age of 22 was winning Finals MVP for San Antonio, and he's gotten better every single season. I don't think anyone can deny that.
He's playing like he did in that playoff run with the 100%.
Raptors. He's playing the last 5 years like that. That's what's even crazier is like this injury. I feel like Clippers fans are just, I don't want to start this debate. We can do it in the offseason when we have, maybe a month and a half with nothing to talk about. We'll have something to talk about. It's the NBA, let's be honest. But are they the most unlucky fan base? I mean, gosh, this is furthermore backing that point up if a Clippers fan is fighting on that. I don't know, man. It's obviously news, but can we see a playoff P performance that's going to turn things around here and keep this series in the Clippers momentum with Conley being out? Maybe. I just think Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are too good. That supporting cast is playing too well. And God, man, I have to give it credit though, it being the playoffs. This has been a really fun playoffs, despite the most star players injured, and Malika Andrews and LeBron James were tweeting about that all morning. Despite this being the most injured of all-star caliber players through this point in the playoffs, I think 9. Previous was 6 through two times. It's still been fun. It's still been competitive. These series have been unreal. I mean, obviously, Suns-Lakers first round helps that. Obviously, some series going 7, in the first round there. It's been a good playoffs. I can't say it hasn't, but this is just a huge, this is just a big deflation in the momentum of the playoffs, having Kawhi Leonard go out like that.
It's been a wildly unpredictable.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Unpredictable
season. So we'll move forward to, we had the best, I don't think it's out there to say, the best playoff performance of the season the other night. Kevin Durant had 49 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. I'm just doing this off the top of my head.
That was how good it was.
Apologize if I was wrong. Bob scored.
That's correct.
I mean, he was really on his own because Kyrie Irving was hurt. James Harden really struggled in his first game back. I think he only had 5 points. He made 1 shot from the field. But Kevin Durant did it on his own. Is Kevin Durant's performance in Game 5 news or snooze for the series?
See, that's a tough way to ask that question. I like that.
Exactly, because we haven't, like, this news or snooze has not been interesting so far. It's just been news from sad stories, that story.
Is it news in the sense of this series? Yeah, if he plays like this, the series is over like tomorrow. However, I'm a firm believer in the Bucks, as were you. And Giannis did everything he could, minus dropping the ball between his legs with 8 seconds to go. It's a bonehead play. It happens, right? Slips through your hands. You've got a 7'11" wingspan. It's not 7'11", but it's really big. And at the end of the day, that's a play you make. The play before that, Drew Holiday dumps it over 2 Nets defenders, one of them being KD, dumps it around them, throws it to Brook Lopez for the dunk. And then that's the play they draw up next. Yes, KD's performance is news because it's also the first time in the playoffs ever, and I'm going to make sure I have the stat in front of me correctly, that someone has scored 45, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists or more in the playoffs.
Okay. So that's only a stat because Wilt didn't get assists.
That's true. Or Elgin Baylor, because he had 61 at one point.
Because Wilt was probably scoring 50 and 25 on the regular in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's specific. It's one of those stats that you see and you're like, haha, it's so specific. It's like a guy on a Tuesday got 12 points, 12 rebounds. It's like ESPN does those all the time. It's stupid. It's so stupid. But it is still really crazy to think that, like, just you're watching this, and this is a guy that 18 months ago, we were wondering if he'd ever be the same player again, and his all-time status was truly being held in the balance. And here we are, like, he's going to definitely now finish top 10 player all time, probably top 5 at this rate, because I don't see him stopping. I don't see him stopping.
Difficult conversation, but I'm just going to skip right past that. The all-time thing.
We agreed. It's not, by the way, to the listeners, Josh and I have agreed on all-time debates. If there's a player that is still playing and there's a player that's not, or there's 2 players that are still playing, we obviously will hold that conversation till that time comes, because it doesn't make any sense. Now, the day LeBron retires, you'll get a LeBron Jordan debate because we disagree on it. That's all I'm going to say. We won't. We've highlighted it before. We've hinted at it before, but we will save it for when 2 players are retired.
Yep.
I fully believe that. Keep going, Josh.
That's going to be an ugly day.
It's going to be a great day. 2.5-hour episode.
Where is that? Yeah, this is the Kevin Durant that won the 2 titles in Golden State. And this is that Kevin Durant that was the star player on a team that had Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson on it. But I think the reason he had those insane stats or had to get them is because he didn't really have a whole lot of help. Like, his teammates that he's going to need to win the finals, he's going to need James Harden to play better than that. He's going to need Kyrie Irving to be healthy, who Kyrie's been playing great in the playoffs so far. And he's got to get healthy. Yeah, they're going to need that going forward. For the series, yeah, I mean, I guess it's news. I still think, these games have been kind of, after the first 2 games, these games have been close. And I could definitely see Milwaukee, if they can win Game 6, it could really come down the line in a Game 7 in Brooklyn. But
my thing is, the series is just so up in the air. Like, you mentioned the word unpredictable 5 minutes ago. And, like, this series is the epitome of that word. Where I keep leaning back to, though, and I just want this to be on record, because this podcast is, 80% on my end, like eye test, and 20% stats. And I still feel really good about the Bucks. I really do. I made that clear. I made that clear to Nick whenever he predicted the Nets to be the title favorite. And I don't disagree with the guy. Like, they're deservingly to be the favorite. They have Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant when they're fully healthy. Here's my what if, though. If the Nets survive the Bucks and Kyrie stays out longer than expected, because his injury could be worse, and I think they're just downplaying it, assuming that they can take care of the Bucks. The Nets can still win the NBA championship with just James Harden and Kevin Durant. And it's crazy to think that, because, in my opinion, it's crazy to think that because Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are the reason that this Nets team is what it is, because they're the 2 guys with the chemistry that came together in Brooklyn. And I still think KD and Harden's chemistry long-term is going to matter in the playoffs, when Harden's truly the best player on that team when he's fully healthy and fully facilitating. Kevin Durant just made sure we didn't forget that he was really the best player. That's really what it came down to. I still have Bucks in 7. I said it the other day. Obviously, that's still untracked. And I can't believe it's even still a possibility after seeing what I saw last night.
I'm just not going to make predictions anymore because last week I think I said Brooklyn's definitely going to win because I was feeling bad about uh, Milwaukee being blown out in the first 2 games and then Milwaukee won the next 2. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's a fun ride. So we'll see.
This is the same Milwaukee team that made Miami look like a junior varsity team just, 3 weeks ago. So they're defensively.
I think this is the best the Milwaukee team's ever been.
100%.
This is the hardest Eastern Conference semifinals they've ever faced.
They're missing Dante DiVincenzo, no doubt, and we can move on after this. But defensively, this team is rotating really well, playing really well. Going into the middle of the fourth quarter, I think it was only like 99 to 97 or whatever. Like it wasn't like, regardless of the KD stat line, he had like at one point almost 50% of the total points. Like it's a series that ultimately defense is going to win, and the Nets can't play defense very well. And I think that's what's going to matter in Game 6 and 7.
I think things could be different if Milwaukee would put Giannis on KD.
Chris Middleton could hit a jump shot.
But I think, it comes down to that game was close at the end despite Kevin Durant's big game, and Giannis wasn't guarding KD. Giannis is the best defender in the Eastern Conference and should be guarding Kevin Durant in that situation.
All right. I'm going to, since we're rolling out of here a couple of different series we talked about, I'm going to transition into the coach section here for a moment. I'm going to call this the coach section. And some of these are going to be quick. So I'm going to rapid fire them at you. If you don't have much to say, we'll roll. First one is Scott Brooks and the Washington Wizards sat down and talked contract extensions. It could not come to an agreement, so they mutually parted ways. With a team that features Westbrook and Beal, both on contracts where those guys will be there next year, barring a Bradley Beal trade. Is Scott Brooks parting ways from the Washington Wizards? News or snooze, Josh?
Snooze.
Why is that? Because it's Scott Brooks? We don't really care?
So, great for the Wizards that they made the playoffs. They got in through the play and they got into the 8th seed. But to be honest, the Wizards are a team that got in because they have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, a couple of guys who, by the time Washington is able to actually develop this young talent they have on the team, are not going to be in their primes anymore to contend. They're a team that I've said again, and I'll double down on it, should trade Beal and Westbrook if possible and get the picks that you can to take the really good young talent you have and build for the future.
The only way that they're trading Russell Westbrook is if they're trading him to the Chinese Basketball Association and someone's going to pay that $44 million contract. He's not going anywhere. He's a Washington Wizard until that contract expires. And at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think this is snooze because ultimately now they're just in the running, and I think they're the third team in the total running here. Portland and Boston are obviously two more tantalizing situations because you have two guys that, quite frankly, could, a bad offseason, a bad day, they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and that team looks different in a month. Bradley Beal could be gone, dealt to Dallas, dealt to wherever.
Bradley Beal's trade value has never been higher.
Correct.
And it's time to make the move if you're Washington.
And I don't think that happens. I think ultimately, we can move on after this. I think, ultimately there's nothing really analytical about this. There's nothing really you and I have seen anything crazy, read anything crazy. They start the season more than likely with those two.
Yeah.
I see a lot of optimistic Wizards fans thinking 4 or 5 seed next year, fully healthy with the two of them. And look, talent-wise, probably possible. But in this Eastern Conference right now, the way it's looking, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard Eastern Conference. You might as well roll into the next phase with a lot of good classes coming up. You've got the high school change implementing here very soon. So
maybe.
It's a really good time if you're at this point, it's looking less likely. But regardless, if you're a Wizards fan, you want the opportunity to have those picks. And they haven't leveraged any draft capital for a really long time. So they're in a great place where they get as much value as possible. I'm not saying OKC blow it up, but at least capitalize on Beal and just let Westbrook play it out till he's done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Josh, I'll just roll right into the next one since we're still in this coach section. After one full season, missing the playoffs with Zion Williamson, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Steven Adams, Stan Van Gundy was not parted way. He was fully fired. by the Pelicans, and here we are, wondering what the heck happens to the Pelicans. Is Stan Van Gundy being fired? News or snooze?
Snooze, but I do have a couple comments.
Fire away.
It's like seeing that didn't like make me like, oh, why did my eyes like pop in my head? Wow, kind of reaction. I thought the Pelicans were a bit disappointing this year, and I can see why New Orleans may not have been happy, and maybe like there just wasn't a good fit with Stan and the team in the locker room, which based on the comments from JJ Redick at the beginning of the season, I could have seen how that would have come across. But like, I just don't see why teams who have been in a rebuilding phase like New Orleans would fire a coach after one season. There must have been something that just wasn't a fit there, because I can't think that he did so badly. Like, he didn't do that badly this year to get fired after 1 year. But not big news. I would hope they've got someone in mind as to who they're hiring. If they want to build a team, they need some sort of stability at head coach. They can't just keep carouseling this thing around.
Yeah, this can't be a repeat of Anthony Davis in New Orleans. I'm going to push back on him being poor this offseason, or couldn't have been that poorly or coached that poorly this year. At one point, they were the 28th team in defensive rating, with a team that featured a couple of different guys that I'm not saying they're stellar defenders, but they shouldn't be 28th in defensive rating. That doesn't entirely fall on the coach. I get that. For me, this team was playoff or bust with you bring in a guy like Stan Van Gundy, who has history of not getting along with some players of certain calibers, Dwight Howard being one of those, for those NBA fans that are our age or a little bit older.
He got along with Dwight for a long time, and they did not a lot of success.
What happened at the end is a guess that we'll never know. My point being is the writing was on the wall the moment that team was about 11 games under 500 and was starting to look like they weren't going to get anywhere close to the playoffs, and they fought back and made it seem like they were going to try to make it. Stan's not the solution long-term. And with a guy like Zion Williamson, who's, by the way, 20 years old, you want a guy that you're going to be able to build around long-term.
I just had the realization that Zion's only 20 years old.
July 6th, 2000. Wild.
Okay.
Wild. I know. I Googled it to make sure I was correct, because I was like, let me just be clear on the record. 20 years old, Stan Van Gundy, completely different place of his career. He was coaching Dwight Howard in like 2005, 2006. Like, that is not the guy you want for Zion's development long-term. You want a guy that's a player-friendly coach. You want a guy that's a developmental-oriented coach. And my second point is you just got to trust in David Griffin, because he's got a track record. Whether he's got a track record with a guy like Zion and Brandon Ingram, I don't know. But the Pelicans can only get better if they capitalize on the pieces they have right now. Be smart. I know there's a couple of things floating around about Josh Hart, then pursuing Norman Powell, whatever, right? Those are all rumors right now until we get to free agency in July. So, yeah, it's news, but Stan Van Gundy, to me, writing on the wall, not the guy for that team. See ya. Couple other ones in terms of coaching, and then we've got a couple more that aren't coaching related. John Calipari is interested in going back to the NBA. Josh, I know this is completely rumored by Yahoo Sports based on sources, but let's just assume it's true for the example of news or snooze. Is John Calipari returning to the NBA? Calipari, is it news or snooze?
If that's true, we're assuming it's true. Yes, that's news. He's one of the best college basketball coaches, one of the best basketball coaches in the last 20 years.
Is he one of the best coaches or recruiters? There's a difference.
What's the difference?
I like that. So, yeah, it is news. It really is, because his stint in the NBA wasn't exactly stellar, we're going to say. That
Can
was
I
also
comment something else on the
John
Calipari thing? I don't believe it for a second.
I love that. I love how sure it is. I love how
he has a job for life.
100%
at Kentucky that probably pays more.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he ever leave? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he's definitely. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, this is what I think, but I really do think Calipari retires a Kentucky Wildcat. I don't see
Yeah.
him, leaving. I don't see him having any reason to, because he's a little younger than the Coach K and Rue Williams of the world and Jim Boeheim's, who are transitioning themselves into retirement or have already retired. He's slightly younger. I believe he's mid-60s, early 60s. But my point being is he likes the college game. I think you can tell that. He's a recruiter. He's got a lot of attributes where he's able to pull these guys in. And even when they didn't have great seasons and didn't make the tournament, Kentucky was still fun to watch, even though they were pretty bad this year. Like, it was still Kentucky. There's still 5-stars here and there. Like, it was still cool.
Calipari's passion, he's made it very clear.
Passion. That's a good word. I like that.
Is developing young basketball players to reach their goals. He's a college coach. His desire with those guys, he wants to win. Now, don't get me wrong. All the guys that want to win. But, like, the reason he recruits so well at Kentucky is his pitch is, I will make you a first-round pick. And he's done that better than any college coach in the past 20 years.
I want to say it's 26 as of right now.
Yeah, he wants to develop these guys to reach the goals they have. And that's a very focus on mentoring young guys that are coming in, 18, 19-year-olds coming to college. His focus is very different, I've seen right now, from what an NBA coach would be focused on. And I think he's doing what he wants to. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know him, but, like, it just seems like he's in a great position, better than he ever would be taking a job in the NBA. And I
Absolutely.
don't believe that.
Absolutely. Lastly, on Calipari for me is he's to reassure what you said. Multiple guys are on record, De'Aaron Fox being one of them, Julius Randle, DeMarcus Cousins, I remember as well, and possibly John Wall have all said they still communicate with Calipari in terms of achievements and talking to him in development. Anytime that they're ever in X, Y, or Z place, they see how he's doing, whatever. And second, this is homework for everyone involved. Here's my homework assignment for the week. You and I can go do this as well as the listeners. Go look up a picture of him winning a national title. His last one, the year has slipped me. I believe it might have been the Anthony Davis. Yeah, I was going to say it's probably the Anthony Davis team, who, by the way, number 1 pick, number 2 right there, Michael Gilchrist. So 2 big first-round picks. Go look at the smile on his face after a national championship, and then go look on the smile on his face after a number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, and I bet you the grin's bigger on the NBA draft pick. I think at that point, you're right. Like, he loves it, and he's always at the draft front row, nice suit, supporting these guys. I remember the Anthony Davis drafts. I remember the DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall draft. That was a really big deal because that was really the first big one. That was the first one where it was like, holy crap. DeMarcus Cousins at 5, John Wall at 1, Calipari is the reason for this. Like, it's a big deal. So, lastly, on news or snooze for coaches, and then we can roll through the other ones that are not coach related that you've got for me. Chauncey and Becky Hammond, Chauncey Billups and Becky Hammond are the front runners right now currently for the Portland Trailblazers job, amongst others. A lot of assistants. I don't have them in front of me, but there are a lot of deserving candidates, like I previously mentioned when it comes to the Celtics. The Blazers one, I was very clear. I thought it was Chauncey and everyone else. But you and I both, I have to admit, and you could probably agree with me, I forgot about Hammond. I really did. We mentioned her very early on, gave her a lot of good respect, had a really awesome segment on her. If you guys haven't checked that out, go back and listen to it. It's in the title, Becky Hammond. Deservingly so. And at this point, I really hope it's Becky Hammond as the coach of the Portland Trailblazers. But Josh, are these 2 candidates and others that are in the mix here, news or snooze?
I think it's news. I think it's really cool. If I were Portland fans, of course, assuming the reports are true, because these are just rumors that we get about who the front runners are, I'd be really happy and excited about who the 2 front runners were for my team. I gotta say, like you, I'm very partial to Becky Hammond, and I just really want her, even if it's not the Portland job, I really want her to get a head coaching job in this cycle, because she should be the first female head coach in NBA history, and that should happen now, quite frankly.
At the end of the day, for me, there's no better time, because it's not like the Celtics are the only, I'm going to say, marquee franchise, and that's no disrespect to Portland. Portland's been around for a really long time. But Boston's the marquee job right now, period. But New Orleans is available. Indiana is available. Portland's available. Washington's available. See, exactly. See, I was going to forget one. And who best than Becky Hammond running she's a player-friendly coach. Pop's made that very clear. That's why she's the front runner. That's why she's developed so well. She's learned from one of the best, for crying out loud. And what better opportunity than a guy like Damian Lillard, who's a really loyal player, who really just likes the team environment and likes being a leader and enjoys just the love of the basketball game. Becky Hammond's a perfect coach for that situation. However, I do think Chauncey's a good coach for that situation as well, because he's a really good point guard who developed under a lot of great coaches. I'm torn. If I'm a Blazers fan, hypothetically here, if I'm a Blazers fan, you probably want Chauncey because of the experience as a player. However, at the end of the day, the Celtics have internally interviewed about 70 people, which, by the way, I'm glad they've addressed it, at least the way they should have, like I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago now at this point. I was very clear how I felt, how it was mishandled GM-wise. I'm not going to digress any further. They're extensively, emphasis on that word, doing this the right way. And I have to applaud the Celtics for that, because they've interviewed just internally 9 people. That doesn't include the other assistants all over the league and the big marquee guys they've reached out to. At the end of the day, this is a big carousel, and it's going to eventually come to a stop. The carousel is supposed to never stop spinning. At the NBA, it's going to be like that until about July. But I think most of these decisions, I'm going to take back part of what I said. Most of these decisions probably are made by June 30th because of the draft and things.
Yeah, you want to have the decision done by draft time.
You want to have a guy or a girl that's going to be able to come in and implement and make their decision and give their opinion. So, yeah, I think it's news. I look forward to the guy that's coming out of left field, because I think Hammond and Billups are up front, but there's like 4 other candidacies. Someone's coming out of nowhere, probably out of college or something, that we're just not seeing. I know John Beilein came up a couple times, and a couple of them for maybe a GM role, but regardless, Juwan Howard's out of the mix. He's already declined most offers and most interviews, but regardless, it's going to be awesome to watch. And
I could see that guy that's at Ohio State now.
The name's slipping as well.
The name's missing me at the moment.
Not
but Ohio State.
He's been gone for a while, right?
Huh?
Thad Matta's been gone a while.
Thad Matta's been gone a long time. Now, the guy at Ohio State, I think it was only his first year at Ohio State, but I would not
be shocked if it was a young guy like that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked for him if given the opportunity to make the jump to the NBA.
All right. Josh, what you got for me on the rest of News or Snooze? Because we still got more. We still got all NBA to cover.
I
mean, the big one is it's not a coach, but it's an elephant in the room in terms of, someone's missing a GM right now. After 23 years. That's how crazy it's been. Josh and I are forgetting topics. It's been wild.
Okay, so I'll just cover the story from the beginning. News article was released. Was it by The Athletic or The Atlantic? I don't want to get it wrong.
I want to say it was Atlantic, but I can double check. I wouldn't be surprised. The Athletic is ahead on things, so it's probably The Athletic. So regardless, we are giving credit to one of the 2 people. I think it was John Hollinger. I think you're correct. I think it was The Athletic.
I'm looking it up to make sure.
Just to be safe.
Article was, The Athletic published that Don Nelson, the GM for the Dallas Mavericks, had been the primary decision maker in Dallas for quite a long time, in that Luka Doncic was not happy with decisions that have been recently made by him in the construction of the Dallas team. Mark Cuban immediately responded on Twitter by calling it BS. A little more colorfully. Today, Don Nelson was fired by the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban.
After 23 years with the team.
After 23 years. Which really does not help Mark Cuban's assertion that the article wasn't true. Either way, it seems there was some dissension between the star guard for Dallas and the front office, and that dissension has been eliminated, I guess, removed. It's got to rub Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it rubs a lot of Dallas fans the wrong way. This guy is the one who built their title teams, who brought Dirk in. Well, he didn't bring Dirk in. Dirk was there when he got there, but yeah, interesting.
So to answer the question you didn't ask, it is news. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So this is the same Donnie Nelson that was hired in 1998. The same guy that I agree with you. I think fans are going to have a little pushback, but here's why I don't think it will be major pushback. This is the same Donnie Nelson who has failed to put I get it, Luka's young, has failed to put talented pieces to say around Luka Doncic. I was very clear how I felt about that. He needs that second star who's non-ball dominant, who wears a headband,
Okay,
a shooting guard, who plays for Washington Wizards.
So Dirk was drafted in 1998, so that would have been at the same time that Don Nelson came in.
That was no, you had it right. So he was traded there, but Donnie Nelson was not the guy that drafted him. It was a trade, draft day, whatever it may be. So regardless, he was the guy that they started and ended their careers together, and he means a lot to the Dallas franchise. But hindsight's 2020, right? He built one title team in 23 years. Now, one title is more impressive than zero. There's a lot of franchises that have zero in a lot of sports. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is fresh change, young guy. Mark Cuban's a very progressive owner. We've been on record many times how we feel about Mark. We love you, Mark. And I think this is a good change. I really do. This is not one I'm going to blow it up and be like, oh my God, we were right. Luka's team is terrible. And they took the Clippers to 7 games, they being Luka Doncic. An expiring contract in Tim Hardaway Jr. is the second best player on that team right now. That's bad with a team that's not going to pick very highly. I believe they're in the mid-20s right now because of that. And look, it's a turning point. Dallas fans shouldn't be upset. They've got a guy like Luka who's, we'll get to where he finished in terms of all NBA. And I'm happy for it. So I think it's news. I think it's a really big deal. And we'll see who they hire. I don't think it's going to be some marquee, it's not going to be some Brad Stevens type change, but it's going to be cool to find out who it's going to be. That's going to hopefully be the guy that changes the turn of the franchise for the Dallas Mavericks.
I don't care what it takes. Dallas needs to make that move for Bradley Beal. It's right there.
That's what I was getting at prior to when you were like, wait a minute, Dirk, I had to get the year right. I was like, they should get a guy. Did you hear me saying it? I was like, they should get a guy who's non-ball dominant, who with Luka Doncic, who wears a headband, who plays for the Washington Wizards. I started beating around the bush. It's Bradley Beal. He's the ultimate target right now. However, if I'm the Wizards, what the heck am I getting in return? Tyrell Terry, a first-round pick that's going to matter nothing in 3 years? Kristaps Porzingis, who cares? They're not going to take Kristaps. You would take Chris. You would.
Hoping that because Kristaps isn't happy with the system.
Ultimately.
And you hope to put a better system together because he's still a very young player in Washington with Kristaps. Kristaps is a guy who would still be in his prime by the time that Washington can get those younger guys.
Scary to think that.
More experienced.
With that much potential.
Picks.
At the end of the day, here's why I think it doesn't ultimately happen for Bradley Beal is because his, like you mentioned already, his value is as high as ever, and Dallas is not the highest bidder.
That's true.
I think that's what it comes down to. That may change come draft time when you're, at the pick 13.
Who is the highest bidder?
I don't know. That's, I think, where we are. I think this offseason is going to be amazing, and here's why.
Because I can't think of many contenders who have that, kind of that open checkbook.
It doesn't have to be a contender necessarily.
Kristaps Porzingis, even though he's had a rough couple of years, is still a pretty big offer.
Absolutely. His potential is unsurmountable, but here's my thing about Bradley Beal. If you're the Wizards, you don't care where he's going. It's just got to be the highest bidder. It doesn't have to be a contender. It could be Minnesota. It really could be. Who cares? It could be Detroit.
My point was that I just don't see, and I could be wrong because you had the Wizards be the team that went and got Russell Westbrook, but you don't normally see teams trade for a guy if they're not trying to contend.
Ultimately, I think, I think what's going to matter, and here's where we're going into a crucial part of the season and the offseason here very soon. We're now closer to the end of the playoffs than we are to the beginning of the playoffs. And here's why that's important. As of right this moment, unless I've missed something, and you and I now are guys that cover the NBA, there is not a single disgruntled star that has put their name out there and said, I want out. It's happening. It's a matter of who and when. And the two that I think we're waiting on, depending on changes, Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard. So it's going to be a really fun next 2 months for us and everyone else that's part of the NBA world.
Puts his name out there as wanting out.
He kind of already has, but I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but he's just not on that caliber of those guys. He's
no, he isn't. But I just wanted to. It's the biggest name we've got so far. Someone who's come out and vocally said, "I'm not happy."
News or snooze? Anything else before we roll into All NBA?
No,
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
The exact All NBA lists. So
okay, so we're officially have we caught up as the dust settled in the NBA for at least a couple days, dude. We just have to make it to Monday. That's all we have to do. While you're getting that pulled up, I have them pulled up. So if you want me to roll them through, so you can have them, I could go ahead and like just relay what they are for the listeners that just may or for some reason not seen them. All NBA teams have been released as of 6:15. That's June 15th. Yesterday at 8:15 p.m. By Shams. I'm going to go with the third team first. I'm going to go down. I'm actually going to do it backward. Build the suspense up for somebody that for some reason might have not seen these. Biggest story in terms of awards so far, other than Rookie of the Year. Third team features your guards, Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, who we previously mentioned, Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler, and Paul George. Why these are not in like point guard to center order, I have no idea. Shams probably got them and was typing as fast as you humanly could to get them out. All NBA second team features your guards, Chris Paul and Damian Lillard, your forwards, Joel Embiid, your center, Joel Embiid, your forwards, Julius Randle and LeBron James. And your All NBA first team, insert drum roll sound that I probably won't insert. Your first team features the MVP, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard. Josh, we're not news or snooze anymore. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. One, any one major discrepancy of the guys on the list you would change in orders, like first to second, second to third, like guys you would change. And second, give me at least one snub. Let's make this at least a little bit exciting.
Okay. My first thought in looking at it, we've been talking about him a lot in the podcast, but why is Bradley Beal third team? I think I was vocal throughout the season. I thought Bradley Beal was having an all-NBA first team kind of season. And I think that Beal should be all-NBA first team. I don't think Luka should be first team, if I'm going to be frank on who I think should be taken off. I think Luka had struggled for a lot of the season and picked it up on the back end.
Okay. Don't delay your snub. I know what you said to me off recording. I'm gonna let you open this up. I'm excited to at least hear one. I have no clue to the listeners, to be clear. I have no clue what Josh's answer is.
I really don't know. Yeah. I really think that the 15 is right.
Come on, you got to give me one.
I'm serious. Like, when I looked at it, I tried to think of some place where I was upset at somebody not being put in there. I can't disagree with those 15 players.
I'm going to read you a couple of guys that were left off. Zion Williamson. Don't comment until I'm done, because I know you probably feel strongly about a couple of them. Zion Williamson, Trae Young, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and Devin Booker. Can you give me a snub out of those at least? At least make this interesting, because I've got plenty to say.
If Zion Williamson had played the whole season without getting injured, I think he's a snub.
That's a good one.
If Kevin Durant had not rested as often and or been out with other different issues throughout the season, sure, he's also a snub. But otherwise, no, I still really like. There's one thing to remember about All NBA. It's not a list of the top 15 players. It's the top 15 guys who had the top 15 seasons.
Okay, then I'm just going to address the elephant in the room that clearly I think, and even though it's further down on the teams, I think that you're not seeing. You're telling me you wouldn't put any of the guys that I just mentioned over Jimmy Butler?
Do you know how good of a season Jimmy Butler had?
I clearly don't, because Jimmy Butler to me is gone off that list for any of the guys I just mentioned.
Give me a second. I'm pulling up Jimmy Butler stats.
While you're doing that, the
So I
Heat
think I'm going to
terrible.
be on the side of defending the Jimmy Butler placement on third team here.
I think we're going to be on two completely different islands, because I don't have anything to back that up. Jimmy Butler and that Heat team, regardless of the injuries and COVID stuff, they look terrible, and they showed it. And I know this is regular season award, to be completely clear, but like that first round was nauseating to watch if you're a Heat fan. And yes, it wasn't entirely Jimmy Butler's fault, but he sure didn't play well. Brent Forbes averaged more points than he did in that series.
Jimmy Butler shot this year his highest percentage from the field in his career, 49.7% for a shooting guard. He averaged 21.5 points, which was the highest point total he's averaged since he was in Chicago, as well as having 7.1 assists and 6.9 rebounds and 2.1 steals, the highest in his career per game this season.
Sorry, I'm taking Trae Young or Jason Tatum over him this year. If we're talking best seasons, right?
Yeah.
Best seasons.
You got to look at, he had an incredible defensive season.
He did. Oh, don't get me wrong. Was he on all defensive team at least? I don't remember the offensive team.
I don't remember. He should have been. So
should have been. I'll pull them up, because all defensive team does matter, because ultimately there was guys that defensive team, the only thing I would say is just there was a major snub, and Miles Turner should have been on that, even though he missed a lot of the season. Miles Turner was a top 5 defender.
That's the thing about missing a lot of the season.
You have to be. I know. You have to not be able to. Our defensive team doesn't really matter. We're talking all NBA. Regardless, Jimmy Butler, if he didn't make it, I can find out really fast. Or if you want to pull it up while I'm starting my point on all NBA.
You can. I'm not looking for that. I'm now comparing KD stats to the Jimmy Butler stats.
So here's my thing while you're pulling Jimmy Butler up.
Gosh. Okay. So
go ahead.
Here's the reason I just can't go KD in this scenario.
Jimmy Butler was
all NBA. Do you know how many regular season games Kevin Durant played this season?
It was less than, so we had 72. It was less than 50. I'm correct. If I'm correct, I'm sure it was
like in
the 40s.
35 regular season games.
Yeah, so I didn't include him. I was just using that as a snub. Like I was
played
not saying
less than half the games this season.
Yeah, you can't give it to
There's no way that you can put somebody all NBA who did not play in at least half of the games. I'm not talking about started. He didn't play for half the games.
Yeah, that's bad.
At all.
Here's my thing. Jason Tatum averaged 26.5, 45% from the field, 7.5 rebounds and 4.5 assists, and helped that abysmal, and continually improving Jason Tatum, that abysmal Boston Celtics team, which Jaylen Brown was out for the final 15 games. He deserves it over Jimmy Butler to me. This more just, I think it really is. I'm just giving this as an eye test. Defensively, Jimmy Butler had a great season. He was all a defensive second team. After finally looking that up, I found that. I can't give it to him. I watched enough games this year, and I watched enough Heat games. He didn't deserve it. And I think Jason Tatum and Trae Young definitely
Jason
did.
Tatum.
Trae Young.
I'm still taking Jimmy Butler.
What about Trae?
All third team. Trae's great at offense.
Yeah, he's a pretty bad defender. He's actually
Trae Young, I think, is statistically the worst defender in the NBA.
He is. You're correct. I remember.
I don't mean that insultingly. I think, like, statistically, objectively, Trae Young is the NBA's worst defender.
Yeah, I know it's not a regular season award; it never will be. But some of these guys proved in the playoffs, what they are as players and how they were able to show that they were worth that selection. He's the only one to me.
I mean, these are always regular season awards. So
I know. What I'm saying is, it's funny that shows up the way it does. Mm-hmm. However, he's deserving of an award of that caliber, just not necessarily this season. He's that kind of player. I think ultimately they really got 14 to 15 guys right. I agree with you. I think this was a really good All-NBA selection.
I will go back and I say, I don't know how you fit it in, but I felt like Rudy Gobert. No one's going to agree with me in thinking Rudy Gobert should have been first team All-NBA, but he should have been at least second.
I agree with you. I would have him over LeBron.
It's interesting to come from. It's because
Would.
I just personally think that Rudy Gobert was one of the best players in the NBA this year.
Who had a better season this year, LeBron James or Rudy Gobert? Answer that question
Rudy
honestly.
Gobert. Rudy
Okay,
Gobert.
then he should be all defensive or all NBA second team. I'm
I was
not.
just
I'm not going to
surprised
be
coming
unbiased.
from
No,
you.
you know I'm not going to be. I try my hardest to be unbiased on this
Yeah.
podcast. I'm glad they're out of the playoffs, so I can not have to worry about talking about them. Honestly,
So that's good. I mean, you're being unbiased, and I said that LaMelo Ball winning Rookie of the Year was the biggest news of the season. So.
hey, you should look. You're a Charlotte Hornets fan. I'm a Lakers fan. There's a big difference there in terms of what we should be happy about. Here's my 2 points on All NBA. I'm sorry, outside of Jimmy Butler. Here's my 2 points on All NBA that I wanted to make sure I mentioned.
Yeah.
Chris Paul should be first team over Luka. Clearly,
Luka shouldn't be first team. We both agree on that.
It sucks. I'm look. That's no disrespect. It really isn't.
No.
Damian Lillard very, 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 very closely is should be first or second. He's second. Mm-hmm. I think that one's close enough. Fine. Joel Embiid. I'll get to him in a moment. Julius Randle deserving it second. I would have LeBron on third if I'm going to have a guy like Kyrie Irving on there at third. You should have LeBron and Kyrie, guys who didn't play a good amount of seasons, or like had long injury stints or had just, hey, I'm Kyrie Irving and I'm going to disappear for whatever the reason may be. You can't have a guy like that on there. Like the same team that has Kyrie Irving and Bradley Beal on it, like two completely different seasons. And they both had great seasons. Don't get me wrong. Kyrie Irving had a 50, 40, 90. So that's a really big deal. It's the 13th time in NBA history that's happened. Here's how you solve the issue, though, of this guy, that guy. Oh, also Paul George, that was pretty. I think he had a very low-key season. I think he had a better season than Jimmy Butler, and he was on the same team as Jimmy Butler. So other than that, yeah, Rudy Gobert should be higher. Regardless, I think they ultimately got it right. Here's how you solve it. Go ahead.
The reason I think that kind of where places where both of us may not like where some of the arrangements were on teams, and it may come down to what they may have to restructure on the way they do these teams. I think they still have it set it up where you pick one center. And so Rudy Gobert and Joel Embiid realistically cannot be first team because Nikola Jokic is a center, even though he's also a point guard for the Denver Nuggets. And he's the MVP and has to be the first team center, which moves both of them immediately down to the next two teams.
You want to know what my next words out of my mouth were?
That probably.
Here's how they fix it. The All-Star teams already lack a center. They've already gotten rid of that.
Should be
Let's do it.
Backcourt and frontcourt.
It should be best 5 players.
Best 5 players
this year because it's a team. Yes, these guys aren't suiting up tomorrow and playing a game. It doesn't matter.
Basketball is a positionless game. I do away with positions.
It's 5 guys that had the best season. Here's my All NBA first team. If it's positionless, or I don't like the word positionless because it's really not position. It's not positionless. Let's be clear. There's centers that cannot guard point guards. And there's point guards that cannot guard centers. Ultimately, it should be positionless in the term of the award. And there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with us. By the way, I thought I was alone on this. I really thought you were going to disagree with me. I'm really disappointed. But my All NBA first team. Here's my dilemma before I say anything. How can you have the 3 MVP finalists and one of them, because of his position, is on the second team? Joel Embiid is on. I told you I'd get to him. He's a finalist. He was the second highest vote getter in MVP, and you're telling me he's on the second team because he plays center? How dumb is that? Honestly. Yeah. Here's my All NBA first team. I'm curious what yours is after this. I have Nikola Jokic. In no particular order because it is a team ultimately. There's 5 guys, even though the order you can kind of figure out probably if you guys listen to us every week. Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Joel Embiid, and Bradley Beal. That 5? That was 5. I'm making sure that wasn't 6. I thought for some reason it might have been. That's it. Those are the 5 best seasons this year. 5 best players because of lack of position. And I still had 3 centers on there. Don't get me wrong. Or 2, sorry. I had 2. Yeah.
I think you and I only disagree in that I would have
Gobert.
Giannis on there still instead of Chris Paul.
I think Chris Paul, statistically, we're going to look at this season if they win the NBA championship, and we're going to think, why wasn't he first team, whatever, right? Or why wasn't this? We're going to look back at this Chris Paul season depending on that result, and it's going to be hugely hypothetical. But if you go back 40 years from now, 40 years, like 40 years in the future, and you look back to this season and you watch this season, or you didn't, like let's say you only have highlights, obviously, you're not going to get the true impact as a fan 40 years from now on what Chris Paul did for the Suns team this year. And I think that goes beyond all NBA. And I'm glad that he was second team because I was really worried he would get third team. Now, I'm not going to ask you this question. We're going to end with this unless you have something else. I can't ask you who your snub is and not give you mine. I can't do that, right? That would be satirical.
Can I guess?
Yeah, you can. I knew you were going to ask that.
Devin Booker.
It's Devin Booker. Out of those guys, it's Devin Booker. You're telling me that ultimately Chris Paul is the most important player on the team. Yada, yada, yada. I've said that 19 times on this podcast. Devin Booker is the focal point of that offense. Devin Booker had a 25-5-5 season for a Phoenix Suns team that was second in the West. 25 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Roughly. The 5 assists, 5 rebounds are close. I don't have anything else other than the fact that Devin Booker was better than Jimmy Butler, in my opinion. And that's the only – honestly, I think they really did get it right, 14 out of 15. That's the one I would change if I had the choice. And this was probably the most non-controversial All-NBA of all time, or at least in our lifetime. It's really shocking. You can go look back at All-NBA teams. This was a good one. And I'm kudos to the awards this year. They got them ultimately pretty right, I think, across the board. And what an NBA season. What a fun year. We're finally back to our October to June schedule that was officially announced last week. By the way, we forgot to mention that. It's a great segue to that, to at least mentioning that and ending the segment with that. Looking forward to a normal, healthy NBA season where all these guys and this all NBA team, I can't wait to do this segment next year and look how different the teams are going to be. So, do you have anything else before we go into trivia? I'm excited to try to get my lead back or try at least get close.
I don't think I do. I think it's time that we move into trivia, and I have a very Charlotte-focused trivia question for you today.
I knew that was coming because you at least mentioned to me prior, so yeah. I'm not like fully shocked, but I'm just looking forward to it.
Today was the big news that LaMelo won Rookie of the Year.
How many Rookie of the Years has Charlotte ever won? Is that the question?
What?
Before today, how many Rookie of the Years has Charlotte won? Was that the question?
Oh, it's way more complicated than that. I was going to give you an easy question. But,
0.
Wait, what?
Is it 0? I actually have no idea. I'm sorry, but I get that wrong.
He's actually the 3rd Rookie of the Year in Charlotte basketball history. The 2nd in this franchise's history.
Being technical, because Chris Paul, technically, right? Hornets,
no.
What am I forgetting now? Hold on. This
You're
is all live.
Terribly at this trivia. Okay, let's launch in. So, what I wanted to get into, LaMelo Ball won the 3rd Rookie of the Year in the history of Charlotte basketball, stretching back to
apparently
the Charlotte Hornets expansion in 1988, the team that stayed there in Charlotte from 1988 to 2001. That team then moved to New Orleans. A new expansion team was formed in 2004 and kept going. It was significant because this kind of Rookie of the Year came down to LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards, which were your top 3 picks. Only top 3 picks by Charlotte have ever won Rookie of the Year. It was one guy that was a 1st overall pick, one that was a 2nd, and LaMelo was a 3rd overall pick. Funny enough in that order, but have won Rookie of the Years in Charlotte. Charlotte has, this is just a long way for me to say, I want to see if you can name the 7 top 3 picks in Charlotte basketball history. They've made 7 picks in the top 3 of the NBA draft in franchise history. 3 of them were with the team that went to New Orleans. 4 of them were with the team now. 4 of them are from the franchise that I support that we expanded in 2004. If you can name 5 of these top 3 picks, you'll get a point. If you can name all 7, you'll get 2 points. You look dumbfounded.
I'm starting to think, do we need to get like an arbitrator for trivia?
What do you mean?
This might be worse than the G League question.
This is most definitely not worse than the G League question.
Okay, so can I tell you what's sad
you have
about this?
bragged about your draft trivia knowledge to me before. I'm talking about the franchise within the state you grew up in.
That I wasn't a fan of, listeners.
Just top 3 picks, who I can guarantee you've heard of all of these players before.
Probably. You said before
you definitely know who all of these players are. vividly.
I have to know the years though. I'm literally going off.
I'll give you the years.
Oh, thank you. Good Lord. I was like, dude, this is like out of like that's like trying to remember Dragon Bender was a top 5 pick.
Write it down. So
go ahead. I'm ready. Go ahead.
The players were selected. The first one was in 1991. A player selected first overall.
That one I probably know.
1992 was the next player. 1999 was the third player. 2004. They were an expansion team that year.
They were the Bobcats at that point, no?
Yes.
They were the Bobcats at that point. Okay.
2006.
That one I don't know.
The next player. 2012.
That one I know.
Next top 3 pick. And then 2020 was the last one.
Okay, so maybe this isn't as hard as I thought.
Maybe not. We'll see.
Maybe not. Okay. Can I go ahead and get the 2 easy ones out of the way? Before I do that. Sorry. All over the place here because it's completely out of left field. I did not see this coming whatsoever. I see how you always tie it into this. I need to start doing my homework better. I give people homework assignments, but don't do my own. How funny. My draft knowledge in terms of number 1 picks is really good. I will do a video for our website the day it launches that I will take that quiz and I promise you I probably go 100 for 100. Out of the since
I'm going to be honest, before I did my research on it, because I really don't acknowledge that franchise that left to New Orleans that much, I wasn't aware that, like, in the history of NBA and Charlotte basketball, that they'd had a number 1 overall pick.
See, that's the one that I'm going through that list in my head. I've taken that quiz a million times. I used to know it from start to finish, 68 all the way to now.
Like, I knew the player, but I wasn't, like, aware that he was picked first overall.
And I think that's the one I'm probably going to get. All right, I'll get back to him. I'm going to get my freebies out of the way because I see why you did 5 out of 7. My freebies are LaMelo Ball.
Wait, give me a second.
2 hints.
I will give you 9 picks.
Okay.
So you can get 2 wrong.
Okay.
And still have the shot because since I'm only giving you a shot at 2 points, I can see how this is a little bit harder than some other things. So
exactly.
You get 9 shots out. You can get 2 wrong and still keep going.
All right. LaMelo Ball is my first absolute just alley-oop freebie. Clap, round of applause.
Round of applause. The guy that this is all about.
2012 is a guy that I have mentioned him already. You see my draft knowledge sometimes. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is number 2.
Unfortunately.
So we have got to review to the listeners. We've got 91, 92, which I did not realize they were back to back there. 91, 92, 99, 2004, and 2006. I feel like we're playing that game like Guess Who, but like we need to do that one day, like on a live video podcast. We do like a game of Guess Who, like with NBA players. I think it'd be really fun. Side note.
It's kind of funny because like what you're going to go through here is like you're going to go like the old Charlotte Hornets basketball history,
and I'm
it's going to be like, oh, cool. And then the ones that are like the Charlotte Bobcats ones, you're going to just see my pain as a fan. So the 2 sides of this.
Because I get 2 wrong answers, and yes, I'm going to start there because I think those are the ones that are where I'm going to miss the most points. Did I have to guess the year? Or can I just say guy that I think is?
It doesn't have. You don't have to guess the year.
This is probably going to pain me.
The years were just hints.
Okay. Adam Morrison was a top 3 pick, was he not?
2006.
Let's go. Yes, let's go. Okay, so this is doable. I can 100% do this.
In 2006.
Here's where I'm now stuck. My lifetime, I got all the ones by
lifetime. Like I feel like you had to know Adam Morrison because he then played for the Lakers immediately after. Yeah, played is a strong word.
Let's not go there. Great at Gonzaga. First great Gonzaga player ever.
To be fair, 8-year-old me loved Adam Morrison in college and was hyped when he got drafted. And to be fair to Adam Morrison, he got injured at the start of his second season and was never the same.
100%. Injuries was his problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask for a hint, and here's why. Because I think this ultimately.
You haven't missed one yet. I'm not giving you a hint yet.
I want a college of one of the 4 guys. Do you pick the one of the 4? I want a college of one of the 4 guys. That's all I want. That is how I tie draft picks together.
You miss one.
Okay.
I will give you a college of one of the 4 guys.
All right, because I'm 3 for 3 so far.
We're just inventing rules as we go along.
100%. Who cares? Listeners love it. It's literally our most listened to segment. Glenn Robinson was the number 1 overall pick that really surprised me. What is that Glenn Robinson, or is he's after 91 or 92? Glenn Robinson, please be Glenn Robinson.
So I don't think Glenn Robinson was ever selected by Charlotte.
Okay, he's the number 1 overall pick, and I can't get his year right ever. And that's the one that I think he played for Charlotte at one point, but maybe he didn't. So Robinson's out.
There's a miss. I guess I'll go in and.
Dang it! That's the one I really felt good about. Glenn Robinson pull that.
You're not gonna like this hint, but you said I could just give you a college one of the players.
You can pick.
Make this as difficult as possible. UConn.
Emeka Okafor.
You got it.
I needed the college hint.
04. Emeka Okafor.
I was going to tell you. I was going to get the year too. I was going to tell you.
I think you're going to pull that right off the top.
Yep, Okafor, because I can remember he's one of the many centers that played for UConn that was drafted very highly. Man. Okay. So here's now where I'm stuck, because I went with Glenn Robinson off the wall because he was. I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure he was either 94 or 95. Joe Smith was somewhere in that 94, 95. And Joe Smith was not.
You got all of the Bobcats new Hornets.
I know, it's crazy, right?
So we're back to the 90s. Yeah.
All right, I need one more to get it correct. Yes.
To get a point, you need one more.
Okay. Here's what throws me off. There's one guy left that I even have a slight guess, and after that, I think I'm probably not going to get a point because I'm genuinely stuck after that. Because I have nothing to lose, I have to guess this because he played a long time there, and I'm pretty. Actually, hold on, I have 2. Kelly Tripucka.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know who that is. Can you tell me?
He was a Hornet from basically when they were expanded in 80, whatever you said, 80 something, to he played all the way up until the middle of the 2000s or middle of the 90s when that team, I think they eventually got traded for Larry Johnson, maybe.
Okay, I can understand
something like that.
Where that guess would have come from. Unfortunately, somehow in the expansion in 1988, the Hornets did not receive a top 3 pick in that draft.
Wow. Nice.
Their pick was number 8, and they selected Rex Chapman.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, the NBA Twitter Rex Chapman. Yeah, okay, that's right.
All right, so
here's my other guess.
Since you have to get the next 3, I'll give you another hint. What kind of hint would you like? Do you want another college?
Do you have a good hint that's not college related? Because I don't know a lot of 90s players' colleges, but I guess they would have been 80s players technically, 80s college, 90s drafts. The one that's really messing me up because that team was pretty good at the end of the 90s.
Okay, so yeah, I'll do what.
99's the one that's eluding me completely, and I feel like
I may help you with this one. Of the 3 players, 2 of them are kind of well known for being Charlotte Hornets. One of them is not well known for being a Charlotte Hornet. He is well known for being a Golden State Warrior. But he was drafted top 3 in Charlotte and started his career there.
But ultimately, did he play? So he was drafted by Charlotte, went to Golden State. Did he come back to Charlotte?
I want to say he did at one point for a very short period of time.
All right. That one, I'll hold that hint. I'll hold that one in the rafters because I don't – that one honestly didn't help. The Warriors one, I'm trying to tie them together. I can't tie a Warriors player to a Hornets player.
I can't. He did not play a long time in Golden State, but
you say he's more known.
You would best know him as a Golden State Warrior, and no, he did not come back to Charlotte after that.
Was he the 99 one? Is the one you're giving me? Is he the 99 one?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I have to guess this one because it's not what the hint you gave me, but this is the one that's been burning my head up, and I'm pretty sure this is at least close. Was Glenn Rice a top 3 pick?
Glenn Rice was not a top 3 pick.
Okay. How many guesses do I have left?
Wrong. You've got 2 more left, I believe. You can't get it perfect, but you can still get your point.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing. I have 4 guys. That out of the 2 guesses I have, and it's just going to have to be a shot in the dark here. All right, can I have one more college since I can't get perfect? One more college.
Okay, I'm not going to give you a college. I'm not going to give you the college of the player that I was hinting at before, so we'll go to a different spot.
I actually don't know if it's the guy I think it is. I don't know.
Say Georgetown.
Alonzo Mourning.
Yes.
Alonzo Mourning. Okay. He is
Second
one of the
overall,
four.
1992.
He's the one of the I couldn't remember if he was drafted by Miami. That's
You
what
know
threw me
who?
off.
Just as a fun point, do you know who went first in 1992?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
For like the first 5 or 6 years of their career, they were compared
following
to
each other. Yeah.
like
Over and over.
irreparably tied. One became much more famous.
Yeah. Mourning wasn't a bad player, by the way, to be
He's
clear.
a great player.
He was one of the four. So you
got
said,
your point. There you go.
Yeah, I'll take my point. This is just for pride now.
Yeah, this is for pride. The other two. Let's see if you get to them.
Don't say anything if this next one's wrong. I want to say my 3, even if it doesn't.
Okay. Yeah.
So Monta Ellis was the 99 pick that I can't get right. He was not drafted by Charlotte, I feel like, but that's the one you say Golden State Warrior. I'd remember him. But did he play that long ago? Because he played up until 2013 in Dallas. Monta Ellis. That's not correct. I know it's not. Your face is telling me it's not correct.
You told me not to say anything.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
I'm waiting for you to say the 3.
God bless America. Okay, so I have 4. Monta Ellis, Baron Davis, Kendall Gill, Larry Johnson. Those are my 4. I'm going to be really mad if it's Larry Johnson.
2 of those 4 were correct.
No!
In 1991,
I guess which one it is. It's Kendall Gill and Larry Johnson. I'm so mad. They drafted those guys and they played
It was
well.
not Kendall Gill. So I'll just talk now. In 1991, the Charlotte Hornets selected with the first overall pick Larry Johnson out of UNLV, the only number 1 overall pick in Charlotte.
UNLV. If you had said UNLV, I would have got that.
Yeah, I avoided it because I figured you probably would.
Dang it.
In 1999, the Charlotte Hornets selected Baron Davis out of UCLA, who would become better known for being a Golden State Warrior.
I remember him in Charlotte, though. That's so heartbreaking because he was not in my original 4. Monta Ellis was.
You remember him in Charlotte?
Yes.
He only played in Charlotte from 99 to 02.
Yeah, I remember him in Charlotte. I remember seeing highlights of him in Charlotte. Oh, my God. I'm so mad. I remember him being on the Charlotte Hornets. Like, I don't remember it, like, vividly. I don't remember him watching it. I just remember in my history of knowing basketball, I remember Baron Davis being a Charlotte Hornet. I just don't know why I tied that together. God bless.
I remember
he was the
in
one.
my mind as a star for Golden State.
It was.
In those in between.
Yeah. Yeah. My thing is that he was. I was more confident on Monta Ellis for some reason than I was on Baron Davis, and Baron Davis is the one I should have went with my gut.
Yeah, dude, Monta Ellis didn't ever play for Charlotte, I don't think.
The Warriors honestly threw me off.
Long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the Warriors threw me off more than anything, I think.
I think you really should have gotten Larry Johnson.
I'm disappointed. Yeah, that's the one for number 1.
Yeah, Monta Ellis was drafted in 2005 by Golden State.
Okay, I was not that far off, I guess. 92, you said already?
That was morning.
Oh, so then I was.
You got 5.
Man, I'm not gonna lie
you
to
got
the
a
listeners.
Point.
I impressed myself.
Behind by half a point now, so I still hold the lead.
8.5 to 8. Yep. 8.5 to 8.
That was fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I am surprising myself more than.
I thought you did pretty well.
I was
surprised you didn't get Larry Johnson. You even mentioned Larry Johnson. Like,
looking back on that question when you asked me, I think 7 for 7 was honestly possible. It's so annoying.
For fun for people listening, can you name who the other 2 Rookie of the Years were?
Alonzo Mourning.
No, Shaq won Rookie of the Year. That's why Alonzo didn't win it. Alonzo came in second.
Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson won Rookie of the Year in 1992. I guess it would have been 91-92 season.
Oh gosh. Okafor definitely won Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year, and
he beat out
04-05.
He beat out oh my gosh, who was the number 1 pick that year? He beat out
I think it was Dwight.
Dwight. He beat out Dwight. That's the Dwight Howard Okafor debate.
Because it was another Charlotte versus Orlando big man thing, just like 1992 was.
Yeah,
and then both times Orlando ended up with the better big man. So
yeah, sad. Well, what a fun episode that we originally 2 days ago thought this was going to be a 30-minute episode. It's now not. So, Josh, anything else before we get out of here? That was a really good trivia question. I applaud you for that. So, round of applause.
So we're not getting an independent arbiter. That's what we're saying.
Dude, the moment I heard that question, I was really about to feel like, well, I think we need a referee for trivia officially. Didn't even make it a whole season, but no, I have some good ones loaded up on my phone.
Everything's tied to the news. LaMelo winning Rookie of the Year made me go there.
Mine's not tied
It
to the
was
news, but mine
probably
are
good
good.
because if I had come with originally, I was just going to go with who are the other rookies of the year for 1 point, and you would not have gotten that
No.
in Charlotte. That it was a Mecca and Larry Johnson. So it's a good thing I guess, made it easier. I thought I was making it harder.
NBA draft knowledge. I told you, and look, I think I proved a little bit there. 5 out of 7 is really good for a team that
You
I'm
can
not a fan
associate
of.
the players when you get the colleges.
It's I guess growing up a college fan, I guess that might be what it is. But all right, let's get out of here. This has been the 2 Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor.
I'm Josh. We will see you soon.